Hey, so it's Monday and we're back at it. And here comes another week of particular idea, and it's delivered for the purpose of my purpose this week is to, sounds like a business meeting, is to, my job is to remind people who they are and to try to use as many different stories or metaphors or analogies or similes as I can that are as effective as possible in doing that. So this week, I'm going to use four different examples or metaphors or stories that remind us, remember us who we are, and thus heal us of the affliction of avidya, which is literally forgetting who we are, that causes all of our other afflictions and suffering and turmoil. And I must say that I'm not much of a gardener per se, but I do have a front yard now, and it's springtime and it's a veritable explosion out there. I bet you can relate in your yard, and things are blooming, bees are buzzing, plants are smelling. It's a extravaganza out there, and all these plants are blooming and little flowers are starting to show. So, so far, so good. And as I look at these big, beautiful plants that are now emerging and pushing out these new little blossoms, feelers, if you will, to expand and to um, increase the size of the plant and its health. I would, you could imagine one of those little blossoms or feelers or blooms looking back from its tip and looking back at its source and saying, I think I'll tie a tourniquet between me and the rest of this plant. So it finds some sort of ligature or constriction, and the little bloom or blossom aims itself back towards its source, so to speak, and then ties a tourniquet around it, and then ties it as tight as it can, and is quite satisfied with its work, that it has now cut itself off from its source. Well, we might imagine what would happen to that blossom or that bloom or that flower that's was getting ready to go. It would wither and die and certainly look stunted and grotesque and not be anywhere near what its potential was going to be. You might say that that bloom or blossom that did that was insane. That would be an insane part of the plant that would do that. Say a bunch of other tips of the plant decided to do that as well, went crazy and cut themselves off from the plant as well. Now, not only would each individual bloom begin to suffer, it would look out at the other blooms, the other blossoms that are withering and dying, and it would see, uh, it would see the other, it would see competition, it would see an enemy, it would see something that did not look good to itself. And imagine this spreading over the entire body of the plant, and yet the plant is thriving. The plant has endless sap, endless life force to send to each one of its nerve endings, you might say. But nerve endings were cutting themselves off from it. Well, the effect would be obvious, wouldn't it? So this idea of a tourniquet that we would use and cut it off, cut ourselves off from our source, I believe is a just about a perfect analogy because it is avidya. Now, how do we, are we the extensions of an infinite life force? Yes, we are. With our physical eyes, we're so habituated and addicted to what we see with our physical eyes. Unless we pay very close attention, we can't see that we're all connected. But with our eyes closed and through intuition and through our telepathic, energetic, compassionate love and feel for all of life, we do remember that we are connected. But it's very easy to think that we're disconnected. And the tourniquet that we use to cut ourselves off from the life-giving plant that we're all connected to, life itself, is the tourniquet is what we think, what we feel, and the experiences we've had so far. And so, oddly enough, each and every one of us, to some degree, can cut ourselves off from an infinite amount of flow of, let's call it sap. But let's say the sap has within it intelligence, wisdom, truth, beauty, inspiration, guidance, positive genius, abundance, love, everything that we could ever want. So each and every, not a single one of us has truly tapped in fully to what's available to us because we're under some degree of constriction. We've tied a tourniquet or one has been tied around us. So in our meditation, in our spiritual practice, if we remember that we're the extensions of an infinite life force, like any bloom or blossom or flower in my front yard, and if I make it my number one priority to untie that tourniquet, in other words, not engage in the type of thinking that cuts me off, fear, resentment, jealousy, anxiety, worry, dread, impending doom, uh, anger toward others, making other people an enemy. This is what will untie this tourniquet that we've all tied around ourselves. Some more, some less. Some people, if you look out in the world, they're very withered. They're only expressing the smallest fraction of themselves. And you look at other people who are blossoming wildly. They're exuding the perfume of abundant living, and they're a great draw and attraction for others. That's available for each and every one of us. So I hope today's metaphor helps as you go out into your yard and look at your plants. Remember that you, indeed, you, the person listening, are an extension of an infinite plant, and infinite sap is being sent our way that will never be cut off. It will never end. It will only expand us forever if we cooperate. All right, see you tomorrow.